Well, hey everybody, hopefully you're enjoying your weekend. We've all got lots of time on our hands, and I'm glad that you spend some of the time with me. So we're doing extra live shows Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, same time on Tuesday and Thursday for the foreseeable future. Hey, it gives me something to do, gives me something to look forward to towards the end of the day. I got to tell you, everybody's trying to fill their days up with stuff to do. The good news is, the weather here on the West Coast is nice, so doing yard work, going to get the power washer out, stuff like that to do. All right, before we get going here, once again, become a Car Cost Canada expert member. Just type in Motormouth in the promo code, and you become an expert member. It unlocks a bunch of searches. And what we're going to start to see are even more and more extensive rebates for people to get you excited about buying a car. And I don't encourage anybody to buy a car if you're not in a financial position to do it. This is particularly good timing for people who have secure jobs, who are civil servants, who know they're going to be employed. You're a firefighter, a police officer, a postal service person, whatever, and you know you're going to be working and you know you're going to be able to pay for the car. And then there's going to be some screaming deals. And this is something you want to share with your friends and your family if anybody's in that situation. All kinds of incentives are coming our way as we head into a really dismal car market. The beginning of the year, January, February in Canada, sales were actually up, and then they just went in the crapper as we started going. Anyway, I just want to also say, how's everybody doing? You guys holding up okay? How's the boredom working for you? Hopefully your family is safe. I got to tell you, it gets a little bit depressing thinking about where we are and where we have to go and how we're actually going to unravel all of this, where people are staying home and not doing anything. I read an article just the other day about Denmark is thinking of allowing people out and to sort of get back to semi-normal life. That is the case in Sweden. Sweden has social distancing, but a lot of cafes and restaurants and things are open. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go about it. All right, let's get into the Q&A. Charlottetown Spud, thanks for doing these, Zach. Stay safe, stay healthy from PEI. I plan on that. Washing my hands. Boy, I put more cream on my hands. I'd never put cream on my hands, but washing so much. Hey, Zach, hope you're doing well. Love the Q&As. When you did the 2019 Mazda CX-3 review, did you get a chance to drive the front-wheel drive version with a manual transmission? Well, what do you know? Just a few weeks ago, I actually did a review and have it recorded of just that. Front-wheel drive, manual transmission, Mazda 3. So stick around. You're probably not in a rush to buy a car because of the situation we're in, but I will be putting that video out in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. I enjoyed it a lot. I asked a lot of questions, as many as I answered, why this car isn't selling as well as it should. Is it just because small cars aren't selling? Is it the styling? It sure drives nice, great engine. There you go. Hey, Zach, thanks for doing this so often. We really appreciate it. What are some of your favorite car channels, reviewers on YouTube? I really don't watch a lot. Okay, I want to say, I just want to go on, one thing I have been watching. I'm just going to go on on here, and it is, let me just history. What is it called again? It's the Japanese motoring TV, I think is what it's called. Best motoring, which is a Japanese channel where they have 5 cars and they go around the track to see which one is the best. I like watching that. That's kind of fun. But I don't really watch other people's reviews because I don't want them to taint. And the same with reading reviews. I don't really read somebody else's review until after I've driven and reviewed the car. I might read somebody's review and go, oh, they kind of agree with what I think. Other than price, is there any reason to buy the CT5V over the M340i? Well, Paul, I haven't driven that car yet, so I can't really tell you. I'm looking forward to it. I actually have that in the lineup from Cadillac coming hopefully in May or June. Just so you're all aware, the press car fleet is quickly diminishing. So Andrea and I, we were out today shooting the S60 Polestar engineered from Volvo, and this will be the last Volvo I get. I just got an email on Friday saying they're pulling their vehicles off the press fleet. So we're down to Kia, Hyundai, and General Motors, and that's it. Those are the only people that are providing cars. So yeah, you're going to be seeing a lot of those cars. I have some others that I've kept back. For example, that Mazda, as I mentioned. And I have some from Max as well that he's done. Hey, Zach, I'm planning to buy a Luxy SUV. I'm guessing that's luxury. Which one would you choose? Mercedes-Benz GLC 300 or the BMW X3? They're both great choices. I would add in there, excuse me, I would add in there the Q5 and even the Q3. Max just did a review of the Q3 that went up yesterday. If you don't need the space for taking extra people, if it's just you and somebody else and you're sharing it and you like the idea of a utility, you can save a lot of money and actually get the Q3, in my opinion, is a very good value in the marketplace. But between the two you're considering here, the X3 certainly is newer. There are spy shots, you can see them online, of the facelifted Q5, and from the camouflage they have on the car, the facelift is very minor, like a minor update. And the one thing that Audi knows is that they have a winner on their hands and they're not changing the styling. Now the GLC is probably the oldest of the bunch. It was, you know, when that vehicle came out several years ago, absolutely loved driving it. And I also like the X3. There's no wrong answer here. They have done a mild update to the head unit of the Mercedes, but they are going to be coming out with a whole new model probably next year. There's going to be a new C-Class and there's going to be a new GLC based on the new C-Class that we're going to see, with probably an even bigger interface in the center of the console. So the BMW is newer, the GLC is the oldest, but they're both excellent choices. Handling-wise, the BMW would be the one that I would choose. Hey, Zach, I currently own a GLC 300 model year 2019 and was looking into an upgrade of in the future of the year going for the GV80. Which one would you recommend? Well, nobody's driven the GV80 yet, so keep that in mind. The GV80 is a 3-row utility. The GLE is either a 3 or 2-row utility. The GLE, in my opinion, is a bit soft for my taste. It might be perfect for you. But no, I've driven the GLE. There's a review on the channel. I liked it. It's got all kinds of, you know, really nice tech in there. I think the styling of the GLE is fantastic. They did a really nice job when you get the AMG appearance package with the bigger wheels. It looks particularly good. But that GV80 is going to be really interesting to drive. And having had a chance to see it and sort of touch and feel a little bit at the Toronto show, it's going to be one to watch. So just wait until we actually get it rolling onto the shores here and get a chance to drive it. Raj is asking, thanks for doing so many live videos. Just wondering, what's your thought on ceramic coating? I am not a big believer in spending a lot of money to get vehicles with special coatings and things. I really truly believe if you wash your vehicle on a regular basis properly, don't take the dirt and swirl it all around. But if you wash your car on a regular basis and you get it detailed, you know, once or twice a year with good wax, it's probably fine. I mean, there's lots of people who absolutely love ceramic coating. It certainly does look really good, but I just think it's expensive, and I think that if you just look after your car on your own, you can achieve similar results. Sorry, jumped around a bit. It always does this. Paul says, we'll be buying an F-150. Should I be concerned about the reliability of the EcoBoost or just get the 5-liter V8 not pulling more than 8,000 pounds? Well, I have no problem recommending the EcoBoost. I have a friend of mine who's had 2 of them, absolutely loves them. The good news is that if you're not towing all the time, you can eke out half-decent efficiency. My biggest problem with the EcoBoost engines is that they have so much torque on tap and you tend to use it. They use more fuel because of that versus, you know, a 5-liter lump of V8 just, you know, chugging along doing its thing. Now, I'm going to throw one at you. Have you thought about getting the 3-liter diesel? And here's one thing that I will suggest to you. The F-150, probably one of the incentives that they're going to have to get people to buy the truck will be things like a free upgrade for the diesel engine, because the diesel, depending on the trim level, can be as expensive as like $8,000 in the F-150. If I was buying an F-150, that would be the diesel, that would be the engine I would get. Is the diesel is amazing. 440 plus pound-feet of torque, amazing torque, perfect for towing, great fuel economy, a really good all-rounder, but an expensive engine. But there's probably going to be an incentive on that. So I have no problem recommending the EcoBoost. Did I say EcoDiesel earlier? EcoBoost. It's a wonderful technology, but there you go. It depends on, you know, how often you're going to be towing. If you're towing a lot, even though it's a lighter trailer, the EcoBoost will use more fuel. If you have the truck empty more often and you drive efficiently, the EcoBoost will use less fuel. If it was me and you could get the diesel as like a no-cost option, that's the one I'd get. What do you think the estimate will be for the Canadian price for the new Cayman GTS 4.0? Will Porsche have any deals because of COVID? I highly doubt that. I suspect that there's more people who want that car than there will be available. What I would suggest is you look at the pricing of the previous GTS and you'll see where it's going to be in relative terms to the regular S models. Okay, so you can look at that grade walk of how they did it in the past and you'll be fairly close. Or you look at how much of a premium they charge for GTS versions of other cars, whether it's the Macan or the Panamera or the Cayenne. You'll see what the grade walk is and you'll be able to estimate roughly what you think it's going to be. Do you think there's going to be deals? No, I don't think so. Is there any kind of sporty SUV to replace my 2007 Chevy Trailblazer SS? Under 40 grand would be my budget. I would look at, maybe if you're into a used, it would be a Grand Cherokee SRT. If you find a good quality used one, that would be a lot of SUV for the money, and like a rocket. DJ Pleasure Seeking Missile. We had a number 2 for best name. DJ Pleasure Seeking Missile definitely has number 1. But with something Haggis something the other day was very good. So we might have Haggis coming back in here. Good evening, Zach. What do you think of Mitsubishi will ever bring the Lancer Evo back? And what are your thoughts on their future as a brand? Thanks and stay safe. Well, thank you, DJ. Do I call you Mr. Missile or Mr. Seeking Missile? I don't think there's an appetite for bringing the Lancer back. I would love it if they brought the Evo back. They seem to be moving towards an SUV company, and that's the way the market's going, and I don't think there's a big appetite for that. There might be a chance to take something inside the Nissan, Renault family and rebadge it as a Lancer, because that's all part of their alliance, but I don't think that's going to come back. Now, thoughts on Mitsubishi as a brand. Now, in Canada, Mitsubishi has been growing their brand over the last few years. They have done it on the back of the PHEV, which has sold much better than they had thought. Last year, they finished about 6,500 of the PHEVs. They are having success. They're going to have a new Outlander this year. They're going to have a new Outlander PHEV, or sorry, not a new one, but maybe an updated one with a little bit more range to compete with the RAV4 Prime. This is my speculation. I don't know this. I'm just speculating based on reading the tea leaves. And there's going to be one other vehicle that they're going to be facelifting or bringing as well, but I don't think a Lancer's in our future. Raj says, hey Zach, did you do a review of the new 911 Turbo? No, I was not invited to go to the event that they had down at Laguna Seca, which was canceled anyway because of all of this. But no, hopefully I'll get my mitts on one. Good evening, Zach. Is the start-stop feature put in the improved miles per gallon numbers? I wonder how many people percentage-wise use this feature anyway. Yeah, it is definitely there to affect fuel economy, especially if you're doing a lot of city driving. Just think about, you know, that engine is turning over at every traffic light for maybe a minute or so, and if it could shut off more often, it does affect fuel economy. Now, a lot of it is automatic. there's only one or two of the early sort of versions of the auto start stop that wouldn't let you turn it off. And if you're in bumper to bumper traffic on the freeway where you crawl forward by 10 feet and then you stop and then you go again maybe another 5 feet, that on off of the start stop can be really annoying, and that's when you want to turn the system off and just keep the engine running. That's where vehicles like hybrids and plug-in hybrids really do a great job, because for that just crawling along, stopping, crawling along, stopping. It's just the little electric motor that's doing the work, and you never actually turn the gasoline engine on. I don't know how many people switch it off. I do know that it is there for fuel economy. Kind Heart says, anything on Seltos? Seltos has just been released into the marketplace. I'm waiting to see if one's going to be arriving here in the media fleet. Thank goodness, and they hopefully keep it open. I'm getting a Kia tomorrow. They're going to keep their existing bookings, and maybe when that vehicle comes, get my hands on it. Think of the Hyundai Kona as a Kia, but made it just a little bit bigger. So similar engines, underpinnings, features, but made by Kia, of course, with their styling, and they made the packaging just a little bit bigger. Kona equivalent. That's what you should be looking at. Other than that, I can't give you any more information. Haven't driven it. In Europe, they got a toned down Type R with smaller rims, smaller wing, and more sound deadening. It's called the Sportline. Why wouldn't they bring it here? I have no idea. I drove the Civic Type R. You can watch the review on the channel. I think the wing in the back is ridiculous. I think it looks like foolhardy. It's funny because I don't know why I was looking at a Veloster N review I did from when that was launched, and I actually pointed out how they made their spoiler at the back integrated and look classier than the Civic Type R, which has that huge shopping cart handle on the back that I think looks so ridiculous. And I know that as well, that they have an optional wing in other markets, and I wish they would bring it here, or at least you could buy it to give a more toned down profile to the car, because I think that some people of a certain age would just look stupid driving it. But there you go. I don't know why they don't bring it here. Why don't we have the CR-V hybrid that they have in other markets? There's lots of vehicles that we see in other markets aren't here. Maybe they'll end up changing their mind on that. Why is the Range Rover infotainment system so lagging, especially considering the price tag? Are they planning on catching up? What is your favorite system in the market? Now, I'm not sure which Range Rover head unit you're talking about, because last year, was it last year or a year and a half ago? Anyway, they brought out, the dual screen, the new 2 screens, and then the digital instrument cluster. Are you talking about the previous version? I did find that it was better, but maybe still buggy. This is a real problem for a lot of brands, and especially with that dual system, they put a lot of stuff into the screens, right? A lot of the functions of the car are now on screens. And I agree with you, there are buggy systems. Here's one thing I will say about infotainment systems. The domestic brands in North America do some of the best infotainment systems. The Uconnect system from Chrysler is, or FC I should call it, is fantastic. It is so good and so simple and so quick. You put the pairing feature on your phone and it's paired like that. I think General Motors, their infotainment systems have big, easy to read graphics, easy to understand, very well done. The new Sync 3 system from Ford, the updated system, is very good as well. The early iterations of the Sync system were really bad, but the latest Sync 3 is really quite good. Kind of looks a little bit like the Uconnect system. I would say those are really, really strong. I think that the Korean brands, Hyundai and Kia, their infotainment systems just work. They're big and easy to understand. There are some really piss poor ones out there, to be honest with you, but those in top of mind are very easy to use. I'm surprised VW hasn't made a sporty version of their SUVs. If any automaker has the means, it's Volkswagen. It's not for the lack of trying to get those kinds of vehicles here to Canada, because you've got to remember, Canada, Volkswagen sells a disproportionately higher percentage of cars than they do of a Volkswagen of America. In the United States, Volkswagen has been lagging in sales. It's underperformed. They just are struggling to sell a lot of the vehicles that they already have, where in Canada, we have more of a European approach. We like Volkswagen cars. We buy a higher percentage of them, and we are too small a market to say, we'll take the high performance Tiguan, or we'll take this car or that car, or we'll take a Golf R wagon with a manual transmission. Hey, trust me, the people at Volkswagen Canada would love to get all those cars. They're just not really a business case based on the size of our market. If the big cousins next door in the United States say, hey, we want to get some of those higher performance models, we would get them in Canada. That's just the way it is. We're a very small market compared to the United States, 1/10 the size, and because they are underperforming, it affects what we get. I think that's the sort of long answer. Roy says, hi, Zach. Questions on twisty, spectacular roads in the Lower Mainland. Any suggestions on twisty, spectacular roads in the Lower Mainland? Stay safe. Well, this is something that's quite interesting, and I tell this to people all the time that think because we live in Vancouver and we have the mountains as a backdrop, you must have the most amazing roads. People think of, Angeles Crest Highway outside of Los Angeles and all those beautiful canyon roads that you see, like when Jay Leno takes a car for a drive, or any of the YouTubers based in California. We don't have that. We have the Sea to Sky Highway that goes to Whistler, which is a nice road, but it's 80 kilometers an hour, and that's kind of boring, and it's policed quite well. You have to go past, in my opinion, you got to go past Whistler, and you got to head up to the Duffy Lake Road. That's the road that goes between basically just past Whistler, Pemberton, up to Lillooet. That is one of the best roads in the province, but a long way from Vancouver, unfortunately. Paul says, I know you love the new Audi Q3, but would you take it over an XC40 for a 3-year lease? I think I would. I like both of them. And for me, it comes down to what I particularly like. I'm not a huge fan of the Volvo infotainment system. I just don't like it. I mean, it's just a personal thing. And for me, that's the deal breaker. I love the ergonomics of the inside of the Volvo. They did a great job with cubbies and bins, and it's really, really well thought out. It's like an IKEA execution on the inside of a car. All of that is first rate. But I just like the Audi interface better. And that's the number one reason. I think the turbo 4-cylinder in the XC40 is very good. I think that having the Q3 with basically a GTI engine in there is pretty compelling. And I think that you can watch my review of when I had a chance to drive it in northern Italy, which is right where that horrible outbreak is happening. I had a chance to drive it very, very early, and then you can watch Max's review that he just did yesterday. I mean, he basically concurs with me that it's pretty much right at the top of the class. Drive them both, and that's when you get down to this, when you get down to Car Cost Canada, and you're going to say, oh, well, I can get a great deal on this versus this one's not such a great deal right now. So you sign up using Motormouth username to get the expert membership for Car Cost Canada, and often when you get this tie of two vehicles, they call it in our industry the buying funnel. At the top of the funnel you might have 5 or 6 vehicles. Then as you get to the bottom of the funnel, it's down to 1 or 2, and often the tiebreaker is the price and the monthly payments for a lot of people. So there's no wrong answer with either one of those. Mark says, hey Zach, what's your opinion on the 2020 Honda Ridgeline? I didn't like the original Ridgeline. I thought it was just ugly looking. And I think the new one is so much better. So basically, it's a Honda Pilot with a bed on the back, and I thought it was very, very good. I think if you're looking for what I call a white collar pickup truck, it's not a bad way to go. And you know what? It's actually exactly what I would use it for. But the problem is I'm not spending all of that money for a Honda Ridgeline. I have an old, not that old, it's a 2008, I believe it is. I can't even remember what year it is, 2007, 2008 Toyota Tacoma. It's a base model, 4-cylinder manual transmission, rear-wheel drive. It's just used to go to the dump, to Home Depot, to run errands. I use it once in a while to drive when I don't need a car here to test drive. So that's like for me. I'm going to go and get some soil to put on the grass, that kind of thing. It's a white collar pickup truck. I'm not a tradesman. I just use it once in a while. I think that's who the Ridgeline is for. It's for people that don't need it as a pickup truck every day, but like the idea of having it to do those sorts of functions, because it isn't built on a body-on-frame platform. It's a unibody SUV platform. It drives like an SUV. It's very comfortable and smooth, but is still quite capable. So it's a white-collar pickup truck. But for me, it comes down to price. I would rather have a cheap pickup for that. If you're driving it every day, it's like driving a Honda Pilot. Hey Zach, what kind of charges would you expect when you return a car after your lease term ends? And which of those charges could you possibly cover by purchasing wear and tear coverage? This is something you really need to do some research on when you sign up for a lease. What is excessive wear and tear? How do they determine that? For example, they'll send a card like this in the mail, and they'll have like this, and they'll say if there's a scratch or anything that's bigger than that on the card, so you can go around the car and hold it up to it, and that's the template. When we had our Audi, that's what they said. It was about that big, and if you could find any scratches bigger than that, then they would charge you for it. Wasn't the case with ours because it didn't have a mark on it. Curbed wheels, stains in the carpet, rips on the interior, things like that. Now, one thing I want to always remind people complain, they say, oh, they took the car back at the end of the lease and they wanted to charge me for extra wear and tear. Like I spilled a mochaccino on the frickin' carpet and it had a stain. Well, they got to get somebody to steam clean that out or try and get it out. There's a stain on the seat or a big dent in the door. Well, if you're somebody that has to refurbish that car, you've got to get a dent removal company to come and get the dent out, or maybe even repaint the door. So there are real expenses. Sometimes they dick you around a little too much, but always think about it. If I was selling this car and I was going to put it on Craigslist or Kijiji or put it in one of the online trading forums, and I wanted to set it as an example as a really nice, clean car, you would have to refurbish it with all those things as well. Clean the carpets, get dents taken out, get scratches taken out, all that kind of stuff. Well, whoever is taking the car back from you has to do all that too. So there is cost incurred with that. Here's my advice. A lot of that stuff you can get repaired on your own and often for cheap. Now, back to your question about buying the package. Find out how much it is, find out what's covered, and find out before you sign the lease what is excessive wear and tear, okay? Hey Zach, Mazda seems to have a very compelling product in most of their segments, but have a very difficult time increasing sales. What's your take on Mazda sales struggles? I've answered this before, but I'll do a quick one. I don't know why. They make excellent products. They have fantastic fuel economy, very strong engines, great handling, nice styling, above average interiors. I think part of the problem is Mazda is now pushing their brand up market a little bit. And you see that with some of their higher end pricing on their top end vehicles. Now, we don't really know. It might be working. I looked at the profit of Mazda internationally in the last year and it wasn't good, but maybe they're getting more per car versus less per car at a lower price. You know what I'm saying? They push the price up a little bit. They might not sell as many, but they might be more profitable. We'll have to wait and see if that theory works out. But I have no idea. Like you would say to them, do you want a good looking car? Okay, they do that. Do you want a nice interior, like better than everybody else? Yeah, they do that. Do you want a car that handles better than pretty much everybody? Okay, they do that. You know, and engines that create good power but are very fuel efficient? Yeah, they do that. They got the recipe. Maybe it's marketing. Are they not marketing the cars well? I don't know. Any news on the redesigned 4Runner in 21-22? We're all waiting on that. We're waiting on the trucks from Toyota to be redone, whether it's the Tundra, the Sequoia, the 4Runner. You know, these older body-on-frame trucks have been left to sort of sit on the vine, in my opinion, too long. Now, if you ask Toyota, they'll tell you they still sell incredibly well. And the thing about getting a 4Runner today is the resale value is absolutely killer on these things. So even if you got one today and then the new one came out in 2 years, you would have no problem getting someone to buy it from you or trade it in and get your money back. So I don't know anything other than that. And I'm speaking to the executives at Toyota. They nod and they go, yes, we know. But yeah, they're selling. That's the thing. Maybe not Sequoia, but they don't really push Sequoia. But the Tundra sells very well, and the 4Runner is a good seller for them as well. Jean-Daniel Villecote, did I get it right? I do like Volkswagen cars. Tell me when we are going to see a small SUV from them in Canada, smaller than the Tiguan. All right, let's just do the math on this. There is a new smaller SUV coming for North America. In Europe, they have what's called the T-Roc, and I wish we got that because it's a great looking small utility. If you haven't seen the T-Roc, just that letter T-R-O-C, T-Roc, look it up because it's a really nice looking utility. Looks like a bigger Golf, very nice styling, and MQB platform. We're not getting that. That's the bad news. Now, about a year ago, yeah, it was a year ago, it was April last year, I went to China for the Shanghai Auto Show. Remember those crazy days when you used to be able to fly around the world and visit different countries? What a shock. Shanghai Auto Show, Volkswagen unveiled 6 new utilities for a total of 12 new utilities over 1 year. Okay, so one of those, not saying it's going to be made in China because it's not, one of those designs that was shown in China, something very similar to that will be coming to North America. Made in Puebla at the Mexico plant, replacing the Volkswagen Golf. So do the math on this. The Volkswagen Golf Mark 8 is coming next summer, okay? Not this summer, next summer. So just over a year from now. So when those cars start to arrive, the Mark 8 Golfs, they're coming from Wolfsburg in Germany. And if you want to see a video I did in Wolfsburg, you can watch that as well. So once that production gets pulled out of the Puebla plant in Mexico, that's when they'll start to plug in this new small utility, whatever it's going to be called. So think about that. You're going to get a new Mark 8 Golf coming from Germany, and we're going to get a new utility built in that older factory coming at the same time. Hey Zach, thanks for having these sessions. Would love to move to hatchback from my X3 diesel. Please recommend a luxury hatchback that won't make me miss the features. Considering an AMG A3, I was thinking the exact same car. That would be a very good choice. What about also a Golf R would be a very nice, fun car to have as well. Because I've said it many times, the Golf R is very Audi light, not like light, Audi light. It is a very polished upscale feel to it, and you don't feel like you're getting beaten up. It's got the adaptive, it's got the dynamic chassis control. But yeah, those would be the 2 cars that I would look at. It would certainly be the A-Class for Mercedes-Benz and a Golf R. Sorry, it's jumping around again. Oh boy. Okay, I'll catch up. Here we go. Looking to replace my wife's 2014 Macan S. So that was the first year, I believe. She would like another one, but anything else we should consider? I don't think so. I think that if your wife has, what does she has? A Macan S? I think that the new Macan S is fantastic. So it's the perfect Macan, if you ask me, because it's the Goldilocks effect. They updated the outside, a nice update. But what they did was they put the big screen in for the infotainment screen, but they kept all the beautiful buttons. And then they took the Cayenne engine, the 3-liter turbo, and then they upped the horsepower. So even though the Macan is smaller, it has, the Macan S, I should say, the Macan S is smaller than the Cayenne. It actually has more power than the base model Cayenne engine. I'm trying to remember the horsepower off the top of my head. The Cayenne is 335, but the Macan is more. So I suggest you go and give it a shot. Now, if you really want to have some giggles, the Macan Turbo has the same engine that's in the Cayenne S, which is the 2.9 liter, and that is an absolute bomb. But yes, I'm with your wife. I think that Macan S all day long, and there's really nothing except for handling, except if you were to get a Stelvio. But you're out there with an Alfa Romeo, considering that you know, the reliability has not been proven with that. Now, if you wanted a really powerful utility, you could get the GLC, the E63S, not the E63, the GLC 63S, but that's got a V8 turbo and will drink a lot more gas. Hey Zach, any information on the redesign of the CX-9 for 2021? I don't have any real information on that, but it's one of the oldest vehicles in the lineup from Mazda. So yeah, they'd probably do a facelift, and that's probably what it would be. Can you drive a Tesla in the winter? Is the range affected by cold? Yes, cold affects electric cars for sure. Colleagues in Quebec have done some great tests because they get real cold weather there, but it does affect it. Thoughts on the Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport? Now, okay, this is the same doctor that asked about the Macan S. This is not going to replace your Macan S when it comes to fun factor. It is not going to replace your Macan S when it comes to handling. It's not going to replace your Macan S when it comes to acceleration. What it is going to do is give you a German SUV with more space. It's markedly bigger. The back seat is huge. The cargo area is very big. It's a big mid-size utility. So if you're going from a Macan S to an Atlas Cross Sport, consider buying a Cayenne because a Cayenne is kind of the same size. I have no issue with it. Same thing, I call it Audi Light. It's a very compliant suspension, smooth. The engine is very reliable. It does like gas. It's an older technology VR6 engine. I have no problem recommending the engine. It's been around for a long time. But yeah, give it a shot. If it's a styling exercise, it's definitely different looking. That's one to consider. Now, also one, if you're thinking, might be the X4, the BMW X4. With the inline 6-cylinder would be another great choice. I didn't think of that just a moment ago, but a really good replacement for your Macan might also be an X3 or an X4, but the M40i version with the inline 6-cylinder. Paul asks, dealer add-ons for new cars, undercoating, window etching, extended this, extended that. Are they a waste of money? Ones you might want to consider are some protection packages. Somebody else asked this a little while ago, asking about, you know, buying warranties. Things like wheel protection packages, you know, when the wheels get curbed, and often they do, any excess wear, stuff like that. Depending on the price, it can't be too expensive. But things like coating for the paint, save your money. Scotch guarding for the interior, save your money. All of that stuff you can buy away from the dealer, and often for a lot less money. All you need to do is phone up a detail shop and say, hey, you know, can I come in and get my interior sprayed with Scotch Guard? Here's a news flash for you. You can buy a can of Scotch Guard at Canadian Tire and spray it on your cloth seats. Or here's a news flash. Just wipe it down when you spill something on it. That's what I would do. I have never bought anything except for my cars, except for the wheel rim protection, but I didn't read the fine print. It was only 3 years, and we kept our car for 4 years. And just before I was about to sell it, I thought, well, I'll take advantage of the wheel protection, and I'll get them to clean up and do all the wheels. I paid for it already. And then I phoned them up, and they said, oh yeah, you had that wheel protection. You paid for it. You never used it. But it expired like, you know, 8 months ago or whatever. So just keep that in mind. My opinion is save your money. Why does a 100% electric car cost more than its non-electric counterpart? It comes down to battery costs. Batteries are very expensive. Car manufacturers are trying to get them down. Tesla is doing a good job with producing them in volume to help get the cost down, but we're not seeing that translate into big profits for Tesla. they still own billions and billions of dollars. And one of the reasons why a lot of people say, well, the legacy car companies haven't ramped up the electric cars like Tesla has, and they've proven that they can sell them. Well, because a lot of the other legacy car brands want to make money. They just, Tesla keeps going to the market and getting more and more and more money. They keep diluting their shares more and more and going back and drawing on lines of credit and things. At some point, they have to become profitable. It really comes down to that. The batteries are very expensive. The research and development is very expensive. And until they can get those costs down, they're going to be expensive. Oh, by the way, I'm getting the Kia Niro electric tomorrow. So that is sort of a fairly cost-effective car. Hey, Zach, now that the 3 Series and the G70 have both been out a while, what's your opinion on the G70? You still like it? Is it still competitive? Still don't see too many of them on the road in the Lower Mainland. I think it is a great competitive car. I think for the price, it's very competitive. So I wouldn't really compare so much the turbo 4-cylinder engine base models. I would look more at the higher performance inline 6-cylinder for the BMW and the 3.3 liter turbo in the G70. And I think when you start looking at what you get in the cars and the packaging, it's a great car. Plus, they both use the same all-wheel drive system, calibrated obviously by each manufacturer. But yeah, the G70 is a lot of car for the money. I really do. I think it looks good too. I saw one sitting in a traffic light the other day, and I think it's a nice looking car. Plus, it comes down to the German car brands are so good at keeping people in their brand. They put handcuffs on you. They give you such good deals to return to them when it comes to getting another lease. And most people lease these cars. So, hey, you've got a 3 Series or, you want another BMW lease, we'll give you a better car with more features and it's less money per month. Like, why would you not take that? And that's what Genesis is up against. And one of the reasons you don't see as many on the road is they can't be as competitive on the leasing front because they don't have the long history of residual values and being able to maintain those residual values. One thing a lot of people aren't aware is that BMW, Mercedes, Audi, all of them, they kind of falsely keep the residual values up for their vehicles at the end of the lease, which is why they're able to sell so many of them. And Genesis isn't in that position yet. Hey again, Zach. I drive a 19 Porsche Macan base model, mostly in manual mode. I find automatic just changes gears too fast and engine underperforms. RPM's too low. Why do you think that is? Well, Mike, have you tried it in sport? There's a sport button there in the center of the console. I find that makes a difference. You got to remember, a lot of engines and the programming of this is to get the gears up and the RPMs down to affect fuel economy. So that's why the car is programmed to do that. And it's also programmed to not be not over revving the engine, but like if you're driving along and it's like this frantic revving engine, that's not comfortable either. If you're doing that intentionally, that's your choice. But if you bought a car and it did that all the time, you're like, wow, this thing is just like, it's kind of manic feeling. So they do it mostly for fuel economy. That's why they do it. But I think it's a great car. I think the Macan base model feels fantastic. And a lot of people criticize and they said, oh, a Porsche Macan with a turbo 4-cylinder engine, who would buy that? Hello, if you looked over at Audi, their best-selling vehicle has the exact same engine. The Audi Q7, that's the same engine that's in the Macan, the base model. And it works for Audi for thousands and tens of thousands of people. Why not for Porsche? And if you actually look at the pricing and you don't get the options too crazy, I think sometimes the Porsche is a better deal. That's why they do it. Drive it in manual mode or try it in sport. Hey Zach, as a Vancouver resident, do you have any recommendations for local roads for filming cars? Also, with the press fleet drying up, are you more than welcome to use my Grand Cherokee Trackhawk? Oh, hell yeah. Or my 1500 EcoDiesel for any content anytime. Can you, 5th Gen Rams, can you send me an email? Zach, Z-A-C-K, at motormouth.ca. So I have your email connections. I would love to get my hands on a Trackhawk. Wouldn't that be cool? I appreciate that. I have industrial strength sanitizer. This is hospital grade sanitizer. I will clean that Trackhawk within an inch of its life. Eeyore, that's another good name. Will Audi and BMW bring back manual all-wheel drive vehicles? Seems the 2024 series is the only German sports sedan left with that combo. Yeah, it's gonzo, man. I don't think it's happening. I think that you're going to see less and less and less manuals. I did a review of the Mini Cooper S, only available with an automatic. Now, there was lots of comments said, well, there is a manual coming. Well, why wouldn't they bring it out? I mean, in a Mini. It's just so sad that we're getting, so few manuals. But here's the reality is, you might like them, I might like them, but we're the two guys that would buy one. Actually, I wouldn't buy one because I'd have to share it with my wife, and she doesn't drive manual. I had a 911, and she couldn't drive it because it was a stick. So if I get another Porsche sports car, it will probably have a PDK, so we can both drive it. So it's just a function of the marketplace. The market isn't demanding manual cars, so they're not bringing them, unfortunately. I'm considering buying an Audi TT because German roadsters are going away. Thoughts? I'm not sure what you're, hopefully the newer the better. The early iterations of the TT were kind of problematic and a bit prone to needing service. So please do your homework on that and find out the gremlins. I like the Audi TT. I never loved it. I think it's okay. I think that, in my opinion, I would rather have a Boxster, but it's up to you if you like the styling of it. Bruno, hey Zach, do you know if we're getting the RS Q3 in Canada? We are not. There's the Q3, the RS Q3, the high performance version. Unfortunately, we're not. You previously said that that an E39 M5 is your fave. Can you? I wanted to know your top 5 M cars and top 5 non-M cars. Well, I'll tell you some of the cars that I owned. I owned an M6, an original M6, a 1988 M6. I love the car. I love the way it looked. Just an absolute nightmare to own because in that era, they were not as well made. They were hand assembled and very expensive to keep running. I would say I'd like an E39 M5. I like an E34 M5. I like the original M3 for sure. Any other M's I like? I like the clown shoe, the Z4M, the shooting brake with the one on the back. That is a really cool car. Not the Z3, the Z4. Sorry, not the Z4, the Z3, the original one. My cousin had one in Scotland. I don't think that's 5, but those are ones that I particularly like. I think the original 335 was a fantastic non-M car. The original 335 is a great car. I think the 340, the current 340 or the 4 Series version is a great car. The best car in the BMW lineup, in my opinion, right now is the 2 Series, the 240. Hands down is the best value. Oh, there it is. I was saying who had the best handle. DJ Pleasure Seeking Missile, still my favorite, but Huge Haggis, that's what it was. Huge Haggis. Now, you could also, I'm going to write that down. Huge Haggis. Now, real Scottish would be Hugh Haggis. It could be Hugh Haggis as well. Has someone said manufacturers are looking after existing customers with lease finance deferrals versus someone said manufacturers are looking at existing customers with lease finance deferrals versus offering discounts to new customers. Thoughts? I'm not sure exactly what that means. Are you saying they're looking after existing customers? All right. I think what you're basically getting at is with this COVID-19, the way banks are holding off on mortgage payments, you can defer some of your payments for your cars. I'm hearing that as well. I would really get in touch with your financial outlet, if it's Ford Finance or Honda or whomever it is, and find out about that. I don't know the individual specs on each one. So here's the thing. If you need to defer your existing payment for a car, you probably shouldn't be buying a new car. You know what I'm saying? If you're having a hard time paying for your existing car, why would you go out and take on more debt? Maybe defer a few months to get through this, everybody gets back working again, and then pick up the payments again on your car that you already have. If you can't afford it today, you shouldn't be buying a new car, all right? Don't you like it when a car actually has a name like the Stinger as opposed to a bunch of numbers and letters thrown together? Looking at you German brands. I know, I grew up in an era, in a time when, you know, all the domestic, I actually mentioned this with the Lincoln that I did, the Aviator, and Lincoln is trying to go back to that sort of nostalgic time when they had Continental, you know, they've gone back to Aviator, they've got all of these different sort of fun names like Corsair. Cadillac used to have the Sedan DeVille, the Coupe DeVille, all of these wonderful names, and they got rid of them. The Buick LeSabre, all of this kind of stuff. So the domestics used to do that for many years, and you know, they're getting away from that as well. I think it's easier to remember for some people the letters, the alphanumeric system, and the alphanumeric system also sort of lets you know which one's got the bigger engine, which one is the performance model just by the name. Like the next question is RS4 Avant. Well, right away, we know it's an RS, that's the highest performance model. It's a 4 series basically, and Avant means it's a station wagon. So it is kind of easier, but I agree with you. I like those nostalgic names. When will, and the question is from Glenn, when will the Audi RS4 Avant come to Canada? Not sure we're going to see that. We haven't in the past, and I don't think, actually we have in the past, but I don't think it's in the lineup. Now, we are getting the RS6, and that is, you know, somebody emailed me today and said there's a lottery jackpot in Canada right now of $70 million for the Supra, what is it called again? Lotto Max. What would you buy if you won the Lotto Max? And I'll tell you right now, I'd have to find one, a used one, a year or so old, would be 911 GT3 Touring. That would be choice number 1. And then I would also call down to California to Singer and get my car in a queue to be made by them. I would have a Singer Porsche, and I would get an RS6 Avant. I just think that is the coolest looking car on the road. And maybe I'd also get the E63 S station wagon for Mercedes-Benz. Those are the kind of vehicles I like. And then I would go back and I would buy a whole crap load of old cars, like really funky, fun stuff. Like I see what Jay Leno has, and I'm like, isn't that cool? Do you think the Supra is a 718 competitor? The Redline channel just did a very nice comparison. Supra, 718 competitor. I don't know about that. I don't know what those guys said, but I'm not sure about that. I recently lost my dealership job as a salesperson due to COVID-19. Well, Jack, I'm really sorry to hear that. I mean, unfortunately, this is going to suck for a lot of people. I love cars in general, hope to stay in the industry. What would you recommend? Anything for me? Huge fan. Stay safe, sir. I think, to be honest with you, Jack, I think that, you know, we just got to get through this. People are still going to need cars. People are still going to need to buy cars, lease cars, fix cars. I'm not sure if you've ever thought of maybe getting into the side of the business on the service side. I'm not talking about being a mechanic, but service advisor, stuff like that, still be around cars. Those jobs are still going to be in high demand. Service advisors are certainly in demand if you're a good one at a car dealership. Maybe move away from sales onto the service side. I don't really know what else to say other than stick it out, dude, and hopefully things will get better. Maybe a good time to go back to school when that starts up. Zach, is a Porsche Macan a good pre-owned vehicle? Yes, but please, like everything, do your research, get a Carfax, get it inspected by a mechanic that you're not buying it from. Like, don't go to Bob's Porsche and say, hey, Bob, I want to do a pre-purchase inspection of this car. No, get them to take it over to another, whether it's a mechanic that knows the cars or another Porsche dealer, and pay them to do the pre-purchase inspection. Make sure they're not owned by the same people. That can happen. And then find out the condition of the car. But yeah, always, in my opinion, look for one that's what's called a CPO, or certified pre-owned. That's the best vehicle to buy. Often you'll find cars that are coming off 2 and 3 year leases, and they still have another 3, maybe even 4 years left on the certified pre-owned warranty. That's a great way to buy, especially if it's your first German high performance used car. That's the way to go. So look for a certified pre-owned, get it inspected, and do your due diligence. Josh, always Josh is here. He's a great supporter of the channel. Josh, thank you very much for being here. I asked last week, but was too late. My family bought Minerva winter Quattro tires for our vehicles since they were much cheaper than dealer suggested. How do you feel about the quality? I don't know about that particular brand. I don't know. There's a lot of inexpensive tires coming into the market that are from China. I'm not sure the origins of that brand. I don't know the name off the top of my head. I always suggest you go with highly reputable brands that do the research and development, and what you're really paying for with these brands, whether it's, Bridgestone, Michelin, Continental and General are the same company if you're not aware of that. Pirelli, Toyo, Hankook, Yokohama, Kumo. These are all very reliable brands. And the good thing is you can get a lot of these brands at a lower price. Like instead of buying Pirellis, you can often find Kumo or Hankook tires that have very good performance and are less expensive. So that's what I always try to suggest to people, is stick with those really reputable brands. Not saying you made a mistake with those tires. I don't really know anything about them. Any news on the 2021 Toyota RAV4 Prime? It was scheduled to be brought out in this summer, and we all know that all got turned upside down. The launch event for people like me to go and drive it, I believe, was in California. They didn't say it was going to be they said it was going to be on the West Coast, not exactly sure where, but it was scheduled to be in June, which means I would have been driving it in a short time, and then shortly after that, the vehicle would be released into the marketplace. All I can tell you is everything is delayed. I think that companies are going to try to do some kinds of maybe localized launches. The thing is, what people don't realize with car companies is that these trains have left the station and they're chugging down the tracks. And what's happening with these car companies is they're trying to lay the track in front of the train as they go along. At some point, they have to switch the tooling in the plant. The parts suppliers have to switch over to making the new parts for the next vehicle, and then hopefully we get the parts and the plants up and running. But that path is in progress, and eventually the cars will be made. So there you go. I don't know what else to say other than it is coming. When? We'll all have to wait and see. But when is this all going away? When are we all going to get back to being able to go down to Starbucks and get a coffee? You can't do that these days. It's all closed, right? It's just crazy. Have you been spotted in public by a fan? Yeah, of course. I mean, I do TV nationally across the country, and I have for almost 20 years. If you're not aware, I did driving television for 17 seasons, and I just switched to motoring TV on TSN a few months ago. I've been doing this channel for about 10 years. So yeah, people recognize me. And then in British Columbia, where I live, I did local TV for many, many years. So I've got a familiar face. The farthest places I've been recognized, China. I was at Shanghai. Somebody came up, a Chinese local watches YouTube, and they were able to get over what they call the Great Wall. So that was kind of cool. I was at the Eiffel Tower in Paris for the Paris Auto Show several years ago, and somebody from the Philippines heard my voice and said, I recognize his voice, that's Motormouth. So yeah, people do recognize me. Hey Zach, I have a Q7 on lease. I still have 16 months to go on my lease to end, and I still have 16 months to go for my lease to end, and I'm at 80,000 kilometers. Do you recommend that I take the extended warranty for the rest of my lease, $3,500? 16 months to go. That seems pretty high for 16 months. What I would suggest you do, Pascal, is get the vehicle inspected by a mechanic that knows this car, okay? And say to them, is the car driving okay? Is it running well? Get them to look at it. Is there anything ominous that could go? 16 months is not that long a time, and $3,500 would cover a pretty good bill if anything were to happen. But is the transmission operating normally? Is it working fine? Have you got any weird things happening with it? Is the car operating regularly? I don't know. That seems like a pretty big nut to crack for just 16 months. If it was me, I'm not telling you what to do. If it was me, I'd for only 16 months, I'd fly naked if it was me. Meaning, I'd go without a lease. Flying naked. That's called the Mile High Club. Have you heard about the power boost for the 2021 Supra? Yes. So the engine that's in the Z4, the BMW Z4, I would suggest that the engine that's in there is now the upgraded new engine for the Supra. So they're going to be putting the same engine in that you get in the Z4. Looking for a used sports sedan, must be fun to drive and fairly reliable. Somewhere in the 30 to 40,000 range. Sports sedan 30 to 40,000 range. Sports sedan 30 to 40,000 range. I would look at some used products, 30 to 40,000 range. I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I would suggest that you look at the usual sort of performance cars, like a used 3 Series, a Mercedes C-Class, something like that, but a certified pre-owned. Hey Zach, you often praise the Kona. Do you consider the Niro to be equal? I prefer its looks, but it's not mentioned as often. I don't think it's equal. I think the Niro is a nice looking car, and I agree with you. I think that it offers a lot. It's a bigger packaging. It might be closer to the Seltos in terms of packaging. But yeah, there's no issue with that. You got to remember that a lot of these vehicles from Kia and Hyundai have a lot of shared components. So just look at the underlying components that you're looking at, like engines and transmissions and things, and you can start to see some commonality. I will tell you that Kia, Hyundai, and Genesis have been way higher than the industry average when it comes to reliability. Okay, and they've also been way higher than industry average when it comes to quality scores and customer satisfaction. So I have no problem with that at all. So consider that. Brix is saying, hey Zach, I'm curious to know how much I should spend on getting a used Omega Seamaster. Also, what are some common problems to look for? Thanks. So Brix is asking, because I have another channel here. This has about 5,000 subscribers, not very big, which is called Watch This, where I review watches or talk about watches. So he's asking me that, and I do have an Omega Speedmaster Professional on there. The nice thing is there are so many of these available used, and you can basically pick your price point. I would suggest in Canada, you're going to start shopping around just under $4,000 for one. One that's a nice one to buy that's used would be what's called the Sapphire Sandwich. Sapphire crystal on the top and a sapphire display back on the back. And they were sold, I believe, in the 90s. That would be a really nice one to look for. What are your thoughts on the Taycan? I think the Taycan's an amazing car, and I think that it's selling in places where it's available. It's selling quite well. You know, everybody says it's twice the price of a Tesla or whatever. It's a different car altogether, and it's a real performance-oriented, great handling, and it's a Porsche. It's got that badge on the front, and for a lot of people, that counts for something. So my biggest complaint about the Taycan is the back seat is small. But if you can live with the back seat and you have the money, giddy up. The one to buy is the 4S. It's a lot less than the Turbo and the Turbo S. There's a lot of questions coming in, so I'm going to start streaming. Oh, I think I've already gone over an hour. I should just tell you that I've gone over an hour. So thanks to everybody that has sent in a question. We have a lot of people on today on the live show. Before I go, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. Click the thumbs up and get the notifications. I'll be doing these 3 times a week on Sunday nights, that's tonight, Tuesday nights and Thursday nights at the exact same time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be chatting about cars. So hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and the notification. I'll be back 3 times a week through COVID-19, answering your automotive questions as best I can. I don't have all the answers, and when I don't know the answer, I'll tell you. But thanks to everybody that has been coming on board and checking it out. And I'll see you Tuesday at the same time. Chat then. Bye now.